Okay, I'm just going to talk. You can sit there and listen the way you always do, eyebrows doing that concerned little tilt, arms crossed like you're holding the rest of the world at bay for me. You don't have to say anything. I just need to put the words somewhere besides my chest, because my ribs feel like they're trying to press them back in. I left him. I know. I keep hearing my own voice saying it like a line from a bad play, like I'm reading it off a cue card. I left him. The air still smells like his cologne in the hallway, cedar and something sweet, like vanilla that took a wrong turn. And every time I open the closet, there's this ghost of laundry detergent that wants to argue with me. Even the fridge looks different, emptier, because his hot sauce collection is gone. It's ridiculous, the things that make it real. The silence between the washing machine cycles. The dent on the couch cushion where I used to tuck my knees under me and watch him play those endless videos about engines. I left him yesterday. Morning light coming through the blinds like prison bars, gold and mean. He was still asleep when I slipped out to buy coffee, but my hands didn't turn toward the cafe, they turned toward the river, like they remembered a route I hadn't taught them. My phone buzzed in my pocket, his name lighting up, and I watched the screen turn black again and again until it felt like a metronome counting out the beats of our last song. I walked along the water where the ducks heckle joggers and the buses cough soot, and I tried to imagine my life from the outside, like those apartment windows you pass at night, where you catch a flash of someone stirring a pot or tossing a blanket, and you invent their whole story in 3 seconds. I asked myself, if I were a stranger, would I think that girl inside was happy? Or would I see her moving around a cage she keeps pretending is a room? You know how he laughed when he was really embarrassed? The nose scrunch, the too loud bark, the way he'd glance at me to make sure I was laughing too. In the beginning, that laugh was a kind of magic. It turned sharp edges into rubber. He spilled wine on my favorite sweater, and the laugh made it okay. He forgot my birthday dinner, and the laugh turned it into a pizza on the floor. He missed the play I wrote, and the laugh showed up with flowers and made it a joke we told at parties. And I went along because it felt like love to forgive. It felt like a wild, generous thing to smooth things over. It felt noble. It felt important. But smoothing becomes sanding, and sanding becomes erasing. That's what I realized last week. I was telling him about the job, the one I've been working toward for a year, the one where they finally said my name in a room that mattered, and he said, "That's great, babe," without looking up from his screen. I saw the blue light on his cheekbone like moonlight, and I kept talking. I gave him the best parts, the people I'd meet, the projects I'd lead, the way my stomach fluttered like I was 12 and about to go on stage for the first time. And he nodded at the wrong places. When I finished, he said, "We should celebrate," like he was reading from a cue card too. And then he asked me if I'd seen the TikTok about the guy who trains squirrels to play basketball. I laughed. I did. Because what else do you do when the person you love is off somewhere you can't reach? I laughed and felt the paper-thin place in me split a little more. Paper tears, quietly. That's another ridiculous thing you learn. Later, he came up behind me while I was brushing my teeth. Mint foam, hair clipped up with the ugly claw I only wear at home, my face in the bathroom mirror like a test I was about to fail. He wrapped his arms around me and said, You know I'm proud of you, right? I watched his mouth in the reflection. The words were soft, his breath was warm. But the mirror is a truth teller. I saw how tired I looked, how small. Pride shouldn't make you smaller. Pride should inflate you like a hot air balloon until you can see your life from above, all the roads you could take. I think I knew then. I think I knew for months, maybe. And the knowing had been knocking on the inside of my skull like a polite guest I kept ignoring. Do you remember that storm in March? The one that rattled the windows like a kid demanding candy? We made a fort out of blankets, and he lit candles because the power went out, and we pretended we were camping. He told me stories about the trees in his grandfather's backyard, the ones he used to climb to escape the yelling inside the house. And I held his hand and thought, this is what I'm for. I am the quiet. I am the candlelight. I am the space where the yelling can't reach. It's seductive, being someone's shelter. It makes you feel like a cathedral. But you become a building, a structure, not a person. A shelter can't wander. A cathedral can't throw a backpack on and disappear for a weekend to a city where no one knows your name, and you can wear the red dress you never wore because he said it was a lot. A cathedral doesn't have hobbies, it just has visitors. I didn't leave because of one thing. I left because of 1,000 small things that accumulated like sand in my shoes, each grain tolerable until the skin rubbed raw. The way he never asked me what book I was reading past the title. The way he'd hand me the grocery list because you're better at remembering. The way he'd forget the names of my friends, and I'd laugh and reintroduce them like a translator at a border crossing. The way he'd say, "You're overthinking it," whenever my heart put a complex puzzle on the table and asked to be taken seriously. The way I started narrating my own moods to make them less dangerous for him. I'm just tired. I'm being silly. It's not a big deal. The way I stopped singing in the kitchen. That one hurts to say out loud. You know, I've always sung when I cook. Off key. Too loud. The same songs over and over because I like the way the garlic sizzling sounds like a drum line behind the chorus. I noticed last month that the spatula felt heavier in my hand and my throat felt like a hallway with the lights off. He came in and put his hands on my hips and said, "Shh, neighbors," like the building would crumble if I made noise. I looked at the steam fogging the window, and all I saw was a girl who had learned to lip-sync her life. I told him I was leaving in the kitchen. It felt right. It felt like addressing the ghost of my voice. It wasn't dramatic. No plates shattered. The sauce didn't burn. I set the spatula down and wiped my hands on a towel and said his name until it sounded like a pebble in my mouth, smooth and small. He turned, and the look on his face. There are expressions you can't put in words because they're too human and too animal at the same time. He looked like a boy caught outside in a sudden rainstorm, soaked and shocked, eyelashes clumped, not yet cold, not yet anything, just unprepared. "I can't stay," I said. "I'm not myself here." He said, "What does that mean?" I said, "It means I shrink." He laughed. Of course he did. And then he swallowed it. He put his phone down, which is how I knew he felt the ground shifting. "You're overreacting," he started. And then he saw my face and pivoted like a dancer stepping on a nail. "I mean, we can fix this. Tell me how to fix it. Tell me how to fix it." as if I'd been withholding the manual out of spite. I stood there, and the towel in my hands was damp and cool, and I thought about how many times I had given him the manual in pieces. Here's how to listen, here's how to ask questions, here's how to sit with me when I'm messy without trying to sterilize me. And I realized I didn't want to be a teacher anymore. I wanted to be a person with a life that didn't need explaining in bullet points. So I said, "It's not a fix thing, it's a leave thing." He stared at me like I'd just flipped a chessboard his grandfather carved. Then he cried. I didn't expect that. I thought I'd carry all the tears. But he cried and pressed his fingers into his eyes like he could anchor the water back in. He said, "I love you," like a confession, like a password. And I believed him. I did. He loved me the way people love their favorite chair. Familiar, comfortable, perfectly shaped around the weight they put on it. He loved the way I steadied the room, the way I remembered what day the bills were due, the way I smoothed his rough patches so he didn't cut himself on them. He loved the framed picture of us at the beach where we look like a toothpaste commercial. But love cannot be only a place to sit. I packed the small things first. The mug with the chip on the handle that fits my forefinger exactly. The plant that refuses to die no matter how many times I forget to water it. The little wooden sparrow my grandmother gave me with a note folded inside that says, "Birds belong to the sky." I didn't take the big things. I wanted to travel light. I left him the couch, the shelves, the heavy mirror that always made me look like I had a secret. He stood in the doorway like a lighthouse with failing batteries. He didn't beg. He didn't rage. He kept saying, "Are you sure?" Until the words lost their bones and collapsed in the corner like laundry. I was sure in the way your body is sure when it steps on something sharp. You don't debate whether to pull your foot back. You just do it.